Hello and welcome to episode 79 of MMO Weekly, presented as always by Chitty's Cheesesteaks. I'm your host, Sal Manzo, joined by what seems to be just a media sensation here in New York over the first couple weeks of the season, Max Wiener, aka the Rally Pimp. I don't know if you like that name. Apparently, you've been making children cry the last couple of weeks with the name. It's very problematic from what some people say. I don't know if I agree with that, but all I know is the Mets are 10-3 since we've seen you. The vibes are rolling. You look great. The tracksuits are awesome. The chains, the hair. I love it. Max, thank you so much for coming on, man. Appreciate
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Am I making the kids cry or am I just making Andy Martino cry? I really don't know at this point. I mean, it's crazy. But like you said, 10-3 streak. We're doing good. Everything's rolling. What's not to love? We're having a good time.
Yeah, and listen, not to name names, but appreciate the free publicity from quote tweeting a Metsmerized graphic on X. Not to get too crazy, so appreciate Martino for doing that at least.
Yeah.
But before, listen, we get into the Mets. We know where the win streak going on here.
Yeah,
Listen,
man.
people want to know about you, man. Obviously, you're kind of bursting on the scene here. I feel like when you first kind of, were on the broadcast, people kind of had the same sort of like, did I see what I was seeing? Is that right? And obviously, the more the season has rolled on, you've been there. Just kind of tell us about you, man. Tell us about yourself. If you're a New York guy, kind of where you're from, where you're about.
Yeah.
Everyone's, I'm sure, very curious about your background here.
Yeah, so I am a New York guy. I live in Manhattan. I grew up in Orange County, New York, and Goshen, New York. Just about an hour and 15 minutes outside of the city. I've been a Mets fan my whole life, so this is nothing new. I've been going to the games my whole life. I was a Shea kid. I'm a Citi Field guy now. I've been doing this forever. People have been, asking me like, dude, where you been this whole time? I'm like, I've been here, dude. They just haven't been putting the cameras on me. I don't really know what to tell you. I mean, I feel like ever since there has been a stroke of good luck. I mean, I'm a Mets optimist now. I mean,
Sure.
there have been years where we have been in the doldrums and it has been bad. And I have stopped watching in the middle of seasons because I really don't like crying myself to sleep every night. It's sad. But yeah, I mean, a little bit more about me. I mean, I'm a comedian. This is me. I mean, this isn't a getup. This isn't a shtick. I mean, I showed up to the game wearing a fur coat because it was 50 degrees and I was chilly. So I wore my warmest jacket and
Sure.
people responded to it. And the Tigers fans love me. The Mets fans love me. So I got some bi-coastal love, some good action there. The Tigers fans say, listen, you're a legend here in Detroit. That's what they said after they featured me on the broadcast. So I was starting to put it together. I was like, all right, so on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports legends, you got me, you got Ty Cobb, you got Gordie Howe. I was starting to place myself up there, letting my ego get the best of me. But yeah, man, it's been crazy. It's been so much fun to see
Sure.
the action I've been getting on social media and to go to the games and just to have the response and everything. I mean, to have Mets fans come up to me and be like, dude, like, we love what you're doing. I'm like, I am housing vanilla ice cream at these games. I'm not doing anything. I'm eating peanuts. I'm sweating out of my eyelids. Like,
Sure.
nothing I'm doing really, I feel, is helping the team. But if the mojo is working, if me dancing, whoring my ass out for the Jumbotron is going to bring us a win, I'll schlep my ass on the 7 train to Citi Field if that's what it takes.
That's amazing. And listen, as far as the Detroit Mount Rushmore of sports, listen, Barry Sanders, you retired too early. Max is here. He's on there now. We're sorry. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But that's
Yeah.
amazing, man. As far as like, just your wardrobe and everything, is it coordinated at this point? Do you choose different, colors or outfits like to coordinate for something else? I'm curious there now with, kind of the notoriety now, if you're putting a little more thought kind of into the looks here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I know which are my best tracksuits. I know
Sure.
which are my best outfits, and I know strategically when I'm going to have to reveal them. It's just like college. Like when I would go out in college, I had the same clothing, I had the same vibe.
Sure.
And I was like, if I want things to happen tonight, I feel like I got to wear pink. You know what I mean? Like, this is the thought process. And now I'm doing the same thing, except I'm like, what do I wear to Citi Field tonight for the Mets game for the Jumbotron camera? Like, that's such a crazy thought for me. So yeah, things are going to start to steamroll a little bit. The good windbreakers are going to come soon.
Sure.
I mean, if it stays chilly, I'll keep the fur. Someone was like, "What are you gonna do in July, man?" I'm like, "Not wear them." I don't really want to have a heat stroke, even if it means we win a game. I mean, I've been starting to flex my warmer weather options,
Sure.
and some people are saying get a fur coat and cut the sleeves off, and I am kind of thinking that's a pretty sick idea. I feel like that would look cool. It'd be fun and interesting. A woman the other night just fully asked me for my windbreaker off my back, and I'm not wearing a shirt. And she said, I don't care. So, yeah, it's just been fun to interact with the people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you go home with the shirt? Did you give the windbreaker away to the fan, or did we keep it on?
I didn't, only because she started to scare me with how serious she was.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
I ran away. I got out of there pretty quickly. She started to move closer to me and she's like, no, I want it. And I'm like, I feel like I have to go. So, yeah.
That's amazing. But like, it's, just as far as you're looking, all that is there an inspiration for you? Like you said, this in college, this is, kind of how you've been. This is what you do. Like, where have you drawn your inspirations from? I'm just kind of curious there, like where it kind of all organically came from for you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty eclectic guy.
Sure.
You know, I'm a comedian, so I take a lot of inspiration from comics, but I also am such a huge music guy. So, I mean, if you look like this, you're going to take some inspiration from, Jimmy Page and
Sure.
Slash and, all those guys, Rick James. I love Rick James, Elton, David Bowie,
Sure.
like my big guys. But I also look like someone put Howard Stern in the dryer. So, like,
Oh my God.
it's all right. Like,
I saw you said somebody ran up to you and said that there was Eddie from Stranger Things.
that's
That
the one I get the most. Yeah.
pretty amazing. I can see that. Uh,
Yeah.
but you talk about, obviously you're a comedian, right?
Yeah.
One of the bits I saw, just kind of scrolling through everything, you talk about your dad, you talk about going from the pants to the shorts with the zippers.
Zip off
I
pants,
feel a little
baby.
seen
Yeah.
because in the third grade, that was really cool. And I know I was rocking those
Yeah.
with my mushroom haircut. So, listen, everybody makes mistakes. That's okay. But just talk to us a little bit more, how you got into comedy, your kind of inspirations for that. And do you draw, like, being a Mets fan, obviously, like you said, there's some seasons you may tune off in the middle of it, some lean years, so to speak. Do you draw kind of that masochism of being a Mets fan and put it into your comedy?
Oh, it totally helps. I mean, being a Met fan, your mindset is so just like you're hardwired to like make light out of shit,
Sure.
So it helps. I mean, look at Seinfeld, look at Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Both Mets fans.
Yep.
I started doing comedy when I was like, I think 18, 19.
Okay.
It's so funny because like my whole life I was really, really shy. And then out of nowhere, I was like, I think I'm going to be a comedian. And my parents were like, come again? And so then I, started to act and I started to do
Sure.
theater and I started to write material and do stuff. And, my parents could see, they were like, oh, like this really is a good outlet for him. And that's where I realized, like, I remember the first time I actually got on stage, I was like, something about this feels really right.
Sure.
And even, when I'm bombing, which is most of the time because that's just part of the game,
Sure.
there's always something to learn. And there's always something I can learn about myself, even when I'm embarrassing myself in front of 3 drunken strangers in the Lower East Side on a Saturday night. Because, that's just why we do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, being a Mets fan definitely helps. Like you said, you just got to look at life glass half full. I mean,
yeah, and it could be hard in
can
Flushing, but things are turning though. Things are definitely turning with ownership
turning.
and everything else.
I like what I see.
Yeah, no, this is a bit of a scrappy bunch here. But I want to get into obviously kind of a little bit more just like your fandom with the Mets and growing up, kind of, pick your brain a little about who you rooted for and stuff like that. But you talk about comedy, you talk about, getting up there and having it, do your thing in front of an audience. Sometimes it could be good. Sometimes it may not be as good. It kind of sounds like, in a way, almost like baseball, not to say it's a game of failure, so to speak, but you got to go up.
Think about it. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you look at, Ted Williams put up a 406 average in 1941, I believe. That means he got to hit 4 out of every 10 at bats.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the greatest hitting season ever. So baseball it's a game of failure.
Sure.
I mean, a 300 hitter is a 3 out of 10 guy. And that is the benchmark for incredible hitting. So I think when you look at it like that, when you look at all these numbers, I think it really puts it into perspective, the kind of game it is. But in terms of my Mets fandom, you were asking about, yeah, I've been a Mets fan forever, and David Wright will always be my hero.
Sure.
Been my hero my whole life since I watched him hit walk-off home runs at Shea, since I cried in my dorm room my freshman year of college watching his last game. I was a baseball player growing up.
Sure.
And I used to wear the one wristband on my glove arm. I used to wave my bat up high, and I wanted to be David Wright so bad. And I remember so vividly watching like the Endy Chavez snow cone catch and those great moments. I made a horrible mistake. I confused the Luis Castillo bobble for 2000, and I realized I was like, I mean, what a fumbled bag that was on my end, because
both bad. Bad. That's okay.
Yeah, literally both bobbled.
Yeah,
pun intended.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, I've been going to games my whole life, and a cool thing I used to do with my family, my grandfather, every year we used to get a box for the whole family to celebrate his birthday. He was a Mets fan from 62 up until he passed, and he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan before that. So he was a real New York National League fan. So every year we would get a box and the whole family would go, and it would be a really cool thing. And, just celebrating the Mets with a real, like, true diehard Mets fan, a guy who watched every game. It really made you feel like you were connected with the team so much more. And then the last year we did it, we had an opportunity because it was his 90th. We had an opportunity to go down to the clubhouse.
Awesome.
And then Jacob deGrom surprised us, and we met him. He was the nicest guy ever. And Michael Kadire, when he was on the team, we met him too, and he was a chiller. And then Mookie Wilson came to our box, and we were like, "Oh my God, it's Mookie Wilson!" Yeah, so I mean, just great memories with the team, and just not even going to the games, like watching Johan Santana's no-hitter.
Sure.
Like, I was 11 years old. And even when we threw the combined no-hitter a few years ago, I was doing stand-up. I had a show, and I told the other people I was performing with, it was at college, I was like, we are not starting this show until they throw the final pitch. Like, that's how serious I was. I was like, I need to watch both no-hitters in Mets history. I need to complete this for my legacy. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world too. That's the thing. Like, I'm happy I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm happy I'm not a fan of a team that just wins all the time, because I feel like you get a little greedy, like, I went to a boarding school in Connecticut for 2 years when the Patriots were winning. And all those scumbags, they just soaked it all up. Tom Brady, every year, they knew, all right, we'll be all right. And then the Sox won when I was there. And it was just misery. So, to see the Mets do well, you don't, like, I feel like people who aren't Mets fans, the Mets fans, they know when the Mets are doing well, they reach out to them and they're like, hey, man, this is cool. Good for you. Because none of them think it's going to last, but we do.
in the back of our heads, we always know when that the door is closing, but we hope it's going to be a long time. I
Yeah.
saw I saw a post the other day. It was from another comedian. I forget their names escape me. Basically, was texting someone and saying I was wearing a Met hat, and so many people came up to me and started talking to me about the Mets, about baseball. I don't know anything about baseball, and I wear a Yankee hat. That never happens. And they explained
Yeah.
to them Mets fans are miserable, and if
Yeah.
you're wearing a Met hat, you assume that you actually like baseball because why
Yeah.
else would you wear that hat? And it's true. Misery, I guess, loves company.
Yeah.
But hopefully the times are changing there. I do want to get back to just talking about your stand up and kind of like your process. Like, just tell us a little bit, like for you writing a set for a stand up, like what is that process like? Are you bringing in, writing down jokes, maybe that like things that happened during the day to you, or like things that you saw that like just
Yeah.
observed? Is it like, more catered to, do you want to stay towards a certain topic? I'm just kind of curious, like how that
Yeah.
works for you.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of living in a city like New York, you can get on stage any night.
Sure.
So if something were to happen during the day, I could get it on its legs that night and I could work it out. And I realized when I moved to New York that I do my best writing like while I'm active and while I'm out. So
Okay.
instead of just sitting in my apartment and sitting down and being like, I have to write X amount of jokes, I'll go for a walk and I'll brainstorm ideas and I'll write them down there. Literally giving them legs, like, putting them on their feet and
Sure.
seeing how they do in real time. And then I'll kind of run through them when I get back here. And then, you know, there's no better place to do them than in front of people, because that's really the only way, you'll really find out if they work. Um, do I cater to one specific topic? Definitely not. I
Okay.
think, um, if I think it's funny, no matter how weird it is, I'll try it
Sure.
out. Like, some comedians definitely have their brand. Like you look at a guy like Sebastian Maniscalco, like
Mhm.
his material is very specific. Doesn't make it any less funny. I think he's one of the funniest people ever. And
Sure.
I've seen him in person, and it's you literally your ribs hurt from laughing so hard. Um, I don't think I'm at that point yet where people are like, oh, like you got to go see Max because he does this material.
Sure.
Uh, you know, it's just all about finding yourself. And I think that I'm still in that process right now. And it's really cool to see how it unfolds and how much I've learned about myself in the process. Cause I think it's a great self exploratory art form for anyone to try, even if you don't want to pursue it. I think you really learn how you think and how you treat yourself when you put your ideas in front of a crowd and they say no, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's a hoot. It's an electric time. That's how I would describe it.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, whether it's comedy, music, sports, right? Entertainers are entertainers are entertainers. I'm
Yeah.
sure you get that rush no matter what. And you said Maniscalco. That's funny. I mean, being Italian, and I watch
Oh my
his stand
god.
up. I always think, and talk to friends and some family. It's funny to us because it's something that's relatable, just like the family stuff he talks about. But I
Yeah.
always wonder, like, can other like, is it funny enough for other people to relate to, like if they don't, have come from that kind of background or whatever? But I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying as far as like he has made that niche, made that avenue, and obviously something that he's gotten good at and is known for. But I am curious on that same note for you. Are we going to see any Mets material coming up now? Maybe some Rally Pimp skits going on? I'm a little curious there. We're going to keep building on this.
You know what? The opportunity is too good to pass up,
Sure.
So will I incorporate it? Most likely. I mean, wouldn't hurt. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny. I think the whole scenario is just hilarious how
Sure.
I just showed up to the game and then all of a sudden this whole thing happened. So I think the whole situation is a bit in and of itself.
Sure.
So just working off of that,
It's awesome.
seeing where it goes. And yeah, it's just the Rally Pimp, man. What a guy.
Listen, the vibes are high.
Vibes
The
are high.
next thing we need, I think the next evolution, if listen, SMY, if you're watching, promo, you, Keith Hernandez, matching fur coats. Maybe we get Haji in one too. I don't know. I don't write the checks. I don't make the money. But if someone's, listening here, all the tens of people, someone should really hop on that because I think we got something pretty incredible there.
My dream would be to just chat with the guys in the booth, Gary,
Sure.
Keith, and Ron. Like that would be like, it's so funny. When I first, the first day that I got featured on SNY, the first game I went to, Gary, Keith, and Ron, or it was just Gary and Keith were talking about my sunglasses and my fur coat. And then I got back after the game and I was talking to one of my friends and she's Australian. And I was like, Keith Hernandez talked about me today. And she was like, I don't know who the fuck that is. And I was like, it's God. It's the voice of God. He talked about me.
That's amazing. Seinfeld,
Yeah, come on. I'm Keith Hernandez. Come on.
That's
the
incredible.
Magic Loogie. How do you not know? But yeah, I mean, to just chat with them and
sure.
It's so funny. The last game I was at, Keith was like, I feel like he spends a lot on his wardrobe. And Gary was like, I don't think he does. So, I'm breaking out the Gucci the next time I'm at the game. I'm bringing the big pieces out because I got to let the people know,
And listen, they're going to be looking for you. That's going to be a topic, especially if they keep winning. I know we talked before we went on air here, wishing that the Mets can maybe fly you out to LA, keep those good vibes against Ohtani and Freeman and Betts over there. That would be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if any Mets front office people are watching, I am free this weekend. So
and he's willing to fly economy. We don't need coach is fine. We don't need first class. Just send
Put me under the plane with the bags. Throw me in between a couple of Kiplings. I don't care. Just get me to the City of Angels. Put a Dodger dog in my mouth. Let me cheer on my team, please.
Well, there we go. Hopefully we can make that happen. Or if not, as soon as they get home, the camera's going to be looking for you and everybody else. And hopefully we'll keep the good vibes rolling here. Absolutely.
I'm going to the Cardinals series. It's game over. I mean, I've already got the plans.
And to support these tickets we're getting, do we have any gigs we can plug? Any shows upcoming we could tell the people about here?
Unfortunately, I have no gigs to plug right now besides the Rally Pimp.
Sure.
So, I mean, the beauty of all of this is that I've gotten some pretty decent following on my socials. Not like obviously more than it was, just a little bit more traction. So just, keep looking for content, keep looking for stuff coming from me. I mean, there's more than meets the eye. I'm more than just a pimp, guys. Like I've got a soul. I'm just a baby.
Even pimps have feelings too. Pimping ain't easy.
Feelings too.
The jokes write themselves. I'm not a comedian. You're the professional. I'm leave that for you. But I don't know if I'd be tweeting things like that when you could slam it down like Shaq in 2000. I would leave that alone. But to each their own. The Mets are winning and the vibes are high. To me, that's all that matters. Everything
that's really
else,
all that matters. To watch those boys have fun really is just what's not to love. It's amazing.
We got a lot of baseball left here, but hopefully the vibes keep rolling. Max, I don't want to keep you here all night, man. I know you've been making the rounds. Really appreciate you coming on, speaking with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week once the Mets hopefully have their gauntlet of a road trip here out in the West Coast. Hopefully they can finish, 500, maybe a little better, and come back home for Max here to cheer them on and hopefully keep going above 500. But
yeah, man, just look for the dude with the big hair and the windbreakers out in Citi Field. I'll be there. That'll be me. I really appreciate you having me on, man. Seriously.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Until then, everybody, let's go Mets.